Hello friends, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the videos. Thank you for your support.
We arrive at Vector headquarters, nestled in an industrial ghetto between the Los Angeles and Long Beach harbors. Jerry Wiegert has lured us with the promise of an exclusive first crack at testing his audacious supercar, which has been the subject of great intrigue and speculation since we covered his first running prototype in December 1980. The decade since then has been long and hard for Wiegert, who, like Ferruccio Lamborghini in the early 60s, decided to take on the established supercar order. Unlike Lamborghini, however, who was a wealthy industrialist, Wiegert was a young industrial designer without a personal fortune. Although Wiegert often boasts of the Vector's 10 years of development, he spent much of the 80s scratching for cash. That he survived is a testament to his dedication to his brainchild and his gift for self-promotion. He scored a financial victory in November 1988, when a public stock offering in the newly reconstituted Vector Aeromotive Corporation raised $6 million. Wiegert's company got $4.9 million and the remainder went to his underwriter, Blinder, Robinson and Company, which has since filed for bankruptcy. That cash infusion and a later one inflated what had been Wiegert's shoestring operation into a 40,000 square foot plant employing 82 workers, the plant we have just entered. Palletized engines, bins of suspension parts, stacks of complex castings, half a dozen cars under construction, and a score of busy employees fill the final assembly area. The Vector operation is real indeed. David Koska, Vector's vice president for engineering, shows us the gray and red engineering prototypes that we are to test as we wait for the truck he has ordered to haul the cars up to our designated testing sites. We unload the Vectors in the San Gabriel Mountains. Although the W8 styling is about 15 years old, the car is still an ocular magnet. Its snout is higher and longer than the current fashion and the body creases are too sharp, but like the late Lamborghini Countach, the Vector has a timeless visual appeal. Inside, the Vector has the blocky, hand-tailored, somewhat homemade look indigenous to most limited production cars, but the fashion theme is jet fighter cockpit. There's a computerized instrument display on which the driver can choose one of 4 information displays. And the black anodized aluminum eyeball air vents, the Allen head cap screws, the push-to-reset circuit breakers, and the illuminated square switches not only look like aircraft parts, they are aircraft parts, very expensive ones at that. Not surprisingly, the seating position is very low, but visibility forward is excellent, gradually deteriorating as one's view traverses toward the rear. The Recaro C seats are superbly comfortable, the driving position is good, and there's ample leg and headroom in the wide cockpit. The tilting, airbag-equipped steering wheel is a pleasant surprise, but the shifter is a disappointment. Buried in a well to the left of the driver's seat, a short lever topped by a crossbar controls the Vector's 3-speed automatic transmission, a much modified version of the GM unit developed for the original Olds Tornado more than 25 years ago. The handle moves through the usual park reverse neutral drive sequence to allow fully automatic operation. When you lift the handle, it becomes a ratchet shifter, shifting up or down a gear with each fore or aft movement. Upon firing up the Vector, we find that the shifter, buried in its tight little well, does not fall readily to hand. When you do grab it, screws protrude from its underside and there's a heavy, sticky action. With the gearbox in drive, the transmission upshifts at very low RPM and refuses to kick down when you floor the accelerator at anything above city speed. Underway though, the red prototype feels tight and solid, although the engine is loud. During our cornering passes for the photographer, the suspension seems supple and well controlled. The power steering is too light, however, and it doesn't provide as much self-centering action as we like in 200-mile-per-hour cars. Our photography completed, we head toward our desert test site. The 3,680-pound Vector is quick, with a twin-turbocharged 6.0-liter V8 building boost and thrust quickly. Above 4,000 revolutions per minute, the push is strong enough to make Vector's claim of 625 horsepower believable. Soon, however, we find ourselves coasting. The engine is still running, but the transmission has ceased communication with the rear wheels. We glide to a halt on the shoulder of Angeles Forest Highway. After a few minutes of fiddling, Koska suggests we press on with the gray car, while his mechanic coasts down the mountain with the red car toward a nearby restaurant to summon the truck. Instruments in place, we start our testing. Although Vector literature calls the W8 the fastest production car in the world, Koska asks us to refrain from top-speed testing because of insufficient high-speed development. Since we're not paid enough to be 200-mile-per-hour guinea pigs, we agree, but wonder privately about the overseas owners of the 3 cars already delivered. Top gear acceleration is strong, but the transmission is slipping out of 3rd gear. The brakes are powerful, only premature rear lockup extends the stopping distance from 70 miles per hour to 191 feet. We're ready to do the acceleration runs, but the coolant temperature gauge has surged to 250 degrees, and wisps of steam are wafting through the louvered engine cover. Koska suspects an air bubble in the cooling system and suggests waiting a bit before adding water. After 2 hours of waiting and dribbling water into the Vector's expansion tank, to avoid cracking the hot head or block with a sudden deluge of cold water, darkness is approaching, and we decide to go to the nearby skid pad. Although the surface is wet, the Vector circulates at an admirable 0.91 grams, with a touch of tail happiness at the limit. We suspect it would probably pull in the area of 0.95 grams on dry pavement. The skid pad testing overheats the engine again, so we spend another hour cooling the cooling system. Koska finally suggests we try an acceleration run. Not only does the temperature skyrocket as soon as we leg it, but the engine detonates fiercely and the transmission resolutely resists shifting into 3rd gear. We decide to pack it in while the Vector can still limp home under its own power. While the mechanics are puzzling over the gray Vector's cooling system, Mark Bailey, Vice President for Production, gives us a tour of the premises. Bailey learned his trade fabricating aerospace components at Northrop, and he is simultaneously enthusiastic about the Vector and frank about the problems gearing up the assembly line. We're just now finishing the engineering drawings and fixtures for the parts. Many of the first sheet metal pieces had to be traced from prototype components. Despite these handicaps, chassis number 14 is in progress at the frame shop, one of the dozen or so cars somewhere in the production process at any one time. The Vector's core is formed by a welded chrome molybdenum steel tubing roll cage reinforced by riveted aluminum panels and an aluminum honeycomb floor pan. Riveted and bonded aluminum monocoque structures extend from this central core to mount the suspension and driveline components, as well as to provide crush zones and bumper supports. Bailey bemoans the cost of pumping the 6,000 or so rivets that go into each Vector, but the superbly crafted chassis easily passed the Department of Transportation's crash tests. The body is made of fiberglass, carbon fiber, and Kevlar composite panels. Each set of panels is individually fitted to a matched chassis, then finished with catalyzed paint. The result is smooth bodywork, a gleaming finish, and admirably even gaps, quality in keeping with the Vector's $400,000 plus price. The running gear is equally top drawer. The front hubs and uprights are Grand National stock car pieces. The brakes are huge Alcon rotors with aluminum calipers all around. The engine is a race-prepped small block Chevy, assembled by a subcontractor using top-grade aftermarket components such as a Rodeck aluminum block, Airflow Research aluminum heads, TRW pistons, and Carrillo rods. Rated at 625 horsepower with 10 pound per square inch boost from its twin turbos, the V8 had not received emissions certification at press time. But Jasjeet Rarewala, the very experienced exotic car certifier in charge, promises that it will pass the tests soon. The powertrain tucks into the engine compartment bolted to a pair of intricate blue anodized aluminum plates the size of doormats, which attach from the rear bulkhead. The glittering array of polished aluminum, braided stainless steel plumbing, and heavy-duty heat exchangers is an impressive sight. As we photograph the engine, Koska promises to have the gray car's overheating problem solved by evening. We leave for another crack at testing, this time at a most unofficial track. Koska and I make for the nearby Terminal Island Freeway, which should be deserted at this hour. In the 5-minute drive to the freeway, the engine overheats again. We return to the factory with the Vector bleeding steam from its haunches. Wiegert is tense and unhappy. The car is sound, you can see that. It has been tested and punished to the max. He attributes the breakdowns to obsolete parts in the development cars we've been driving, explaining, "You put the best stuff in the cars you have to ship." He seems desperate for us to complete a successful test and presses us to stay until the cars can be fixed. Unfortunately, we're scheduled to leave for Michigan the next morning. But we offer him another shot if one of the cars is repaired before flight time. The phone jars me awake in my hotel room near Los Angeles International. Koska says he has the red car running again. We agree to meet in the lobby at 3 a.m. Even in the dark of early morning. The arrival of the Vector perks up the hotel's skeleton staff. Koska and I hop in, followed by one of his mechanics in a Suburban. This time we head toward Pershing Avenue, a limited-access divided 4-lane road just west of the airport that should be barren at this hour. The red car is running strong. Its temperature stays in the low 200s and there is no sign of detonation. After 4 runs, our best 0 to 60 time is 3.8 seconds, and we measure a standing quarter mile in 12 seconds flat at 118 miles per hour. Those times are good enough to edge out a Ferrari F40. There was room to go faster, but the car refused to upshift into third gear and the engine was hitting its rev limiter well short of its 7,000 revolution per minute redline. I drive over to the waiting Koska so that he can check it out. He confirms the problems, and we find that reverse is also gone. We call it a night, and I am back in my room at 4 a.m. It costs us substantially more to build this car than it costs Ferrari to build an F40, says Jerry Wiegert. Judging by the premium components, fine craftsmanship, and excellent finish of the cars he is shipping, that may well be true. But in development and engineering, we suspect Ferrari has outspent Vector. Will the Vector satisfy the demanding supercar buyer? Perhaps. But this question doesn't frighten Jerry Wiegert. My customers are big guys, they've got attorneys, they know what to do if they're not satisfied. Is Wiegert himself satisfied? No perfectionist ever is. I will improve this car through my team and efforts.